What if humanity's greatest mysteries aren't just myths, but forgotten chapters of history waiting to be revealed? Join us as we investigate, separating fact from fiction in the legends of lost cities. Humans have always been drawn to the unknown. Deep down, we crave adventure, mysteries, and the undiscovered. This drive fuels the captivating legends of lost cities, like Atlantis, Dorado, and Shambhala, which have sparked imaginations for millennia. But why are we so eager to believe in hidden civilizations buried beneath the sands of time or at the bottom of the sea? Psychologically, lost city myths reflect our deepest needs and fears. They offer an escape from everyday life, a chance to imagine worlds of wonder and discovery. These legends tap into our nostalgia for a golden age, a past where civilizations were wiser and life more harmonious. They explain the unexplainable, lost knowledge, mysterious artifacts, or enigmatic ruins. They embody our hope for rediscovering lost greatness, wisdom, or riches. This desire for more, for something meaningful, drives human curiosity. Culturally, these myths are more than just stories. They're part of our collective consciousness, passed down through generations, evolving with each telling. From ancient Greek philosophers like Plato, to medieval mapmakers drawing terra incognita, to modern writers and filmmakers, everyone has shaped these grand narratives. These stories become part of our cultural code, shaping how we see history, human potential, and the limits of possibility. They inspire adventurers, archaeologists, scientists, and of course, con artists. As a skeptical investigator, I have to ask, how much of this belief is justified? Is our desire to find Atlantis or El Dorado simply a projection of our own hopes onto ancient tales? The allure of the unknown is powerful. It drives exploration and discovery, but it can also cloud judgment, leading us to see evidence where it doesn't exist and ignore facts for a more romantic story. So before diving into specific stories, let's explore why these myths persist. What makes us believe in hidden worlds? And how do we separate genuine scientific inquiry from wishful thinking? This will be our starting point in the quest for truth among ruins and legends, where every claim will be scrutinized. Our goal isn't to shatter dreams, but to understand their roots and test their validity. Did you know the entire Atlantis legend stems from just 2 Plato dialogues? Are we ready to unpack this age-old myth and separate fact from fiction? Let's start at the beginning. The grand saga of Atlantis, which has captivated minds for centuries, originates not from ancient scrolls or excavations, but from 2 philosophical dialogues by Plato, Timaeus and Critias. Written around 360 BC, the Greek thinker first described a powerful island nation beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar. Plato tells of an advanced maritime civilization that tried to conquer the world, but was defeated by Athens, and then, punished for its pride, was sunk by the gods in a catastrophic earthquake and flood, in a single dreadful day and night. A key point often missed: Plato was a philosopher, not a historian. Most scholars agree that Atlantis was not a historical fact for him, but a literary device, an allegory. It was an ideal civilization. He contrasted with his model of an ideal state to illustrate political and moral ideas. He used myth to make his point, but the details were so compelling that many took it as gospel. Since then, Atlantis has become a holy grail for seekers. Among the many hypotheses, one stands out as scientifically plausible: a link to the Minoan civilization and the island of Santorini, ancient Thera. Around 1600 BC, a massive volcanic eruption destroyed this island, once the center of a thriving Minoan culture. Some see this catastrophe as the seed of Plato's legend, the sudden destruction of an advanced civilization, a naval power. However, as a skeptical investigator, I quickly find serious inconsistencies. Plato's timeline points to 9,000 years before him, several millennia before the Thera eruption. The size of Atlantis, as described by Plato, is incomparable to Santorini. And finally, the political context where Atlantis wars with Athens doesn't align with the historical realities of the Minoan era. Other hypotheses take us in more exotic and less grounded directions: the Bermuda Triangle, the Caribbean Sea, the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. These theories often rely on dubious discoveries of underwater structures that, upon closer inspection, turn out to be natural geological formations, or on vague interpretations of ancient maps. For example, the Bimini Road, an underwater rock formation, was long touted as the remains of Atlantis, but most geologists consider it natural. Ultimately, despite centuries of searching, no convincing archaeological evidence has been found that definitively confirms the existence of Plato's Atlantis. This doesn't mean we should abandon the dream of great discoveries, but we must clearly distinguish between scientific inquiry based on facts and pseudo-scientific speculation that exploits our desire to believe in miracles. Atlantis, most likely, will remain a great philosophical parable, not a real page in history. Forget Atlantis. Few will tell you that the quests for El Dorado and Shambhala were just as obsessive, and their legends far more deadly. If Atlantis is Plato's allegory, El Dorado and Shambhala are legends shrouded in gold and mysticism, leading to real, often tragic expeditions. Their quests are stories of human greed, spiritual aspirations, and inevitable disappointment. Let's start with El Dorado. It's not just a city name, but an entire era of Spanish conquest. It began not with a city, but with El Hombre Dorado, the Golden Man, a ritual of the Muisca people in Colombia where a chief, covered in gold dust, made offerings to the gods in Lake Guatavita. 16th century Spanish conquistadors quickly transformed this ritual into a myth of a country, and then a city made entirely of gold. This idea became an obsession. Dozens of expeditions, led by Gonzalo Pizarro, Francisco de Orellana, and Sir Walter Raleigh, ventured deep into the South American jungles and mountains. Their searches were marked by incredible hardships: hunger, disease, clashes with local tribes, and the deaths of thousands. While some expeditions did discover rich gold mines and empires, like the Inca, the golden city of El Dorado always remained an unattainable mirage. A skeptical view is obvious here. El Dorado was a projection of European greed, a fantasy fueled by rumors and their own desires. The conquistadors saw what they wanted to see, interpreting the stories of the Indians through the lens of their material aspirations. The true El Dorado, the ritual on Lake Guatavita, was only a shadow of their imagination. The legend of Shambhala is different, but no less powerful. This mystical kingdom, hidden somewhere in the depths of the Himalayas or Central Asia, is central to Tibetan Buddhism and Hinduism. Unlike El Dorado, Shambhala promised not material wealth, but spiritual enlightenment, wisdom, and peace. It's a land where enlightened beings live, preserving ancient knowledge. The search for Shambhala attracted not only adventurers, but also mystics, philosophers, and esotericists. Nicholas Rorick's Russian expedition in the 1920s, for example, was inspired by this idea, seeking not gold, but spiritual centers. However, as with El Dorado, these searches invariably ended in nothing geographically. As a skeptic, I tend to see Shambhala not so much as a real place, but as a powerful metaphor. It's an ideal, an inner path to enlightenment, not a specific point on a map. Attempts to find it physically often led to disappointment. The legend of Shambhala, like Atlantis, serves as a spiritual guide rather than a physical destination. In both cases, whether for gold or spiritual wisdom, humanity has shown incredible persistence in searching for something that may never have existed as they imagined. These stories are powerful reminders of how our desires and beliefs can shape our perception of the world and drive the boldest and sometimes reckless endeavors. Archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, obsessed with Homer's poems, spent years digging at Hisarlik in Turkey until his shovel struck ancient walls. What the world considered a beautiful legend, Troy, the city of Helen and Achilles, turned out to be real. Such discoveries fuel the hope that Atlantis awaits its hour. But why isn't this a reason to believe in all myths indiscriminately? Indeed, history knows many examples where what seemed pure fiction took on flesh and blood beneath layers of earth. Besides Troy, which Schliemann, albeit with questionable methods, brought back to the world from the depths of centuries, there are other striking examples. Think of Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas, which remained hidden from European eyes for centuries until it was discovered by Hiram Bingham in 1911. Or Petra in Jordan, carved into the rocks, which was forgotten by the West for 1,000 years. Angkor Wat in Cambodia, Pompeii, Herculaneum. The list goes on. These cities are undeniable evidence that civilizations can disappear, be buried under ash, jungles, or sands, but they really existed. And here lies the key difference that a skeptical investigator must emphasize. In each of these cases, there was either specific, albeit scattered, historical evidence, as with Homer for Troy, or physical ruins known to the local population, or their existence fit into the overall historical development of the region. Troy was part of the Bronze Age Aegean. Machu Picchu is the pinnacle of Inca architecture. These were real human settlements, created in a known historical era, albeit lost to the outside world. Unlike Plato's Atlantis or the mystical Shambhala, these cities were not philosophical parables or spiritual metaphors. They didn't require assumptions about supernatural technologies or impossible geological catastrophes, going beyond known science. Their lostness was the result of time, wars, natural disasters, or simply isolation, not a complete absence from historical reality. Thus, while the discoveries of Troy or Machu Picchu are incredibly inspiring, they don't give us carte blanche to believe in every legend of a lost city. On the contrary, they teach us to critically evaluate the source of information. If a legend, as in the case of Atlantis, was originally created as a cautionary tale, not as a documentary account, then it should be approached with corresponding skepticism. Real discoveries require real evidence, archaeological finds, written sources, besides a single philosophical work, geological plausibility. Discovering a long-forgotten city is a triumph of archaeology and human perseverance. But it's not a miracle, but the result of painstaking work and a rigorous scientific approach that allows us to distinguish fantasy from fact. Our hope for new discoveries must be supported not by naive faith, but by a pursuit of truth based on evidence. More than 80% of the world's ocean floor remains unexplored, and satellites scan millions of square kilometers of land annually with incredible precision. With such technologies, why haven't Atlantis and other great lost cities been found? In an age when satellites can read a license plate from orbit and underwater drones explore the deepest ocean trenches, why do Atlantis and other great lost cities remain legends? It would seem modern technology should have settled these age-old searches. But reality, as always, is more complex, filled with nuances that a skeptical investigator must consider. Let's start with underwater research. More than 80% of the world's ocean floor remains unexplored, with the level of detail needed to find ancient ruins. However, that doesn't mean we're sitting idle. Modern sonar, such as multi-beam echo sounders and side-scan sonars, can create detailed maps of the seabed, revealing anomalies that may indicate artificial structures. Autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, and remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, equipped with cameras and manipulators, can inspect and even take samples from depths beyond human reach. The potential of these technologies is enormous. They can cover vast areas, work in conditions unsuitable for humans, and obtain data with high accuracy. But there are also limitations. Oceans are not just water, but a dynamic environment. Thick layers of sediment can completely hide any structures. Depth creates colossal pressure, and the cost of such expeditions is astronomical. And most importantly, even if sonar sees something, distinguishing natural geological formations from artificial ones without direct visual confirmation or archaeological expertise is extremely difficult. Many sensational discoveries of underwater cities, whether off the coast of Cuba or Japan, the Yonaguni structures, after detailed study, turned out to be either natural phenomena or too ambiguous to draw firm conclusions. The situation is no less interesting on land. Satellite imagery, especially using Lidar, laser scanning, and radar interferometry, can penetrate dense jungle vegetation or thin layers of soil, revealing hidden terraces, roads, foundations. This has led to the discovery of entire networks of ancient cities in the Amazon, previously invisible from the ground. Ground-penetrating radar, GPR, magnetometers, and electrical resistivity methods allow archaeologists to see underground without digging, detecting stone walls, voids, or altered soil layers. These methods are revolutionary. They allow us to find cities we didn't even suspect and significantly narrow down search areas for traditional excavations. But here, too, a critical eye is needed. Detecting an anomaly on an image or GPR reading is only the first step. Data interpretation requires high qualifications. Too often, sensational claims about finding a lost city turn out to be the result of excessive enthusiasm, hasty conclusions, or worse, a desire to create hype. Natural landscape features, ancient agricultural fields, even modern utilities can be mistaken for ruins. In the end, modern technologies are powerful tools, but they are not magic wands. They help us search, but don't guarantee the discovery of mythical cities. Most importantly, they require a rigorous scientific methodology and skeptical approach to separate real discoveries from misleading illusions and wishful thinking. We've scoured the ocean floor and jungles, debunking myths. But even after all the facts, why do we still secretly hope Atlantis is out there? What does this unquenchable thirst for wonder say about humanity itself? Our investigation has come to an end, and as a skeptical investigator, I must admit, no convincing evidence has been found for the existence of Plato's Atlantis, the Golden El Dorado, or the Mystical Shambhala, as described in the legends. We've seen how Plato used Atlantis as a philosophical parable, not a historical fact. We've traced how the thirst for gold and spiritual enlightenment led to unsuccessful, sometimes tragic expeditions. And we've seen that although real lost cities like Troy or Machu Picchu have been found through archaeology, their nature is fundamentally different from truly mythical places. Even the most advanced technologies capable of penetrating earth and water cannot find what probably never existed physically. So why, despite all these facts, does the belief in lost cities remain so strong? What does this unquenchable thirst for wonder say about humanity itself? First, it's our unwavering hope for something more. In a world that seems increasingly explored and predictable, myths of lost cities offer a last bastion of mystery, a promise of undiscovered greatness hidden from view. They fuel our nostalgia for a golden age when civilizations were wiser and life more harmonious. It's a desire to believe in lost knowledge or unprecedented riches that can change the world or our own lives. Second, it's our deeply rooted need for wonder. Humans are naturally inclined to seek meaning and magic. When rational explanations seem too dry or incomplete, myths fill that gap, offering exciting alternatives. For some, the lack of evidence only strengthens their belief. If it hasn't been found, it's just very well hidden. This fuels conspiracy theories and a romantic view of history, where something amazing hides around every corner. Third, it's an integral part of human curiosity and the drive for discovery. It's this desire to explore, push boundaries, and solve mysteries that drives progress. Even if the ultimate goal is a myth, the search process itself leads to real knowledge, technological development, and a better understanding of our world. Expeditions inspired by El Dorado led to the mapping of vast territories of South America. The search for Shambhala promoted cultural exchange and deepened knowledge of Eastern religions. Ultimately, lost cities are not just geographical points. They are mirrors reflecting our deepest aspirations, fears, and dreams. They speak to our capacity for imagination, our thirst for adventure, and our unwavering hope that the world is full of wonders yet to be discovered. Even if these wonders live only in our minds, their impact on the real world, on science, culture, and art is undeniable. Perhaps the main treasure of lost cities is not gold or ancient technologies, but the search itself, which makes us dream, explore, and most importantly, constantly ask questions. Our investigation is complete. I hope it's helped you look at lost cities from a new, more critical, but no less fascinating perspective. Our investigation is complete, but the echoes of bygone eras continue to resonate, holding countless secrets. If, like us, you strive to separate myth from fact and dive into the mysteries of lost civilizations, subscribe to Epoch Echoes. Like this video so we can continue our fascinating investigations in search of truth.